Why do Democrats choose the interests of illegal immigrants, even when it's against the interests of the country? Because without illegal immigrants, there is no Democratic Party. I'll try to explain this now. Well, let's start with the fact that 1 million officials with their families is a huge group of future builders of the new economy. They don't know it yet themselves. They're frightened, they're angry, they're in a state of hatred that's close to despair. I'm talking, of course, about those people whom Trump has already fired and will continue to fire. But this is a turning point and a remarkable moment in their lives. It's through hardships to the stars. It's a departure from meaningless time wasting, from office politics, from the constant feeling that someone owes them something or hasn't given them enough, to the feeling of being the master of your own destiny. When? Losing their jobs in Washington and other centers of the federal government will force them to take their families to places where there is a need for workers. They will finally, maybe for the first time in their lives, become producers instead of freeloaders.
Damn, friends, that's magnificent. This fat Antifa LARPer pouring paint over this object. Ace has been arrested. You have to see this video. He starts shaking and trembling. Oh, please don't hurt me. Oh, I'm so scared. These people think it's a game. They're playing a game. There have been 3 terrorist attacks at ISIS facilities in the past few months. How?
Never, nothing like this ever happened before them.
What are they pretending to be? I want you to really understand this. When he says they're much faster than they pretend to be, they're playing games. I'm not exaggerating. These are young people who don't know what the real world is like. They don't know where oil comes from. Honestly, that's one of my favorite stories. It's like when I argued with those socialists on Twitter and tried explaining economics to them. And I said, okay, let's talk about a grocery store. Oh, and they were like this. Grocery stores should give people free food. And I asked, where does the milk come from? And honestly, the guy answered, from the grocery store. And I said, no, where does the grocery store get the milk from? He said, what do you mean, milk in the grocery store? I thought, Lord help us. These people are cognitively limited and they vote.
Nothing like this has happened since World War II. But back then, men went to war, military production. But now...
Show me this photograph. Show me. Let me show you this picture. I think I actually have it here. Here he is. Take a look. I'll show you the video. He's young, chubby, and that's him. It's wild. Let me show you. Here he is being arrested. This was the day before he spilled the red paint. You can see the paint. They caught him. Here he goes. Here he is. Oh, there he is. He's trembling. Look at him. He's scared. Terrified. We need this. We need this video.
Let me explain. Trump suggested that employees resign and get paid 9 months in advance, and 100,000 have already left.
They're just playing games. He doesn't realize what he's involved in. The FBI doesn't mess around. So what should we do with him? I'll be kind and say, kind sir, here's our plan. You'll spend a month in jail because what you did is not just a minor offense. In most places, disorderly conduct typically has a maximum sentence of around 28 days, or maybe a month or so. That seems harsh. Spending a month in jail could ruin your life and cost you your job. That's why usually, if you get a disorderly conduct charge, you don't get anything. You get a $50 fine, which is what disorderly conduct really means.
Trump is still mocking the Democrats. He says they're not idiots. Then why did they help me and cause this shutdown? What do we call the closing of government agencies here? Maybe they also want to make America great again.
They create circumstances in which terrorists attack immigration and customs enforcement facilities and law enforcement agencies. They're a diversion. They're the shaft of the spear. Without them, the tip would be useless. And here's what I told that guy: you damaged federal property. All right, that could lead to a year in prison. Actually, federal, I think it could be federal prison. But criminal damage to government property usually refers to more serious offenses, like a Class A misdemeanor or low-level terrorism crimes.
I'm not sure how they classify offenses. Was he in Portland?
Yes, Portland. So I said, this guy, I think, should go to jail for, well, 3-4 weeks. Go to jail. And they'll say, bro, criminal damage to federal property. You're lucky you're only getting a month. Maybe then you won't do it. And maybe then your friends won't do it. That's
Brilliant. What the Republicans found out is that the Democrats' proposal package deeply hides the provision of health insurance and medical care for absolutely everyone living in the United States, not just citizens, but all residents. Let's do the math. Medical care, well, let's say Medicare. It's the kind where, so to speak, elderly people, for example, don't pay. Yes, single mothers or someone else don't pay, and the government pays instead. So how much does this cost the government? On average, it costs about $4,000 per person per year, including everything. Medicine, services, basically everything. If there are, as they say, 20 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, then the cost of their medical care would be $80 billion a year. So basically, the Democrats wanted to quietly slip this in on us. An expense, well, just a small one, not much, $80 billion a year. The people paying won't be university students or those on welfare who vote Democrat. Instead, working people, the producers or Republicans, will pay.
Why don't Democrats support health care for illegal immigrants?
The Democrats demand health care for everyone. We want to save lives. We want to make sure that health care is available to those who might die but could get help from their government.
So you support a government shutdown even if it means giving medical care to non-citizens?
Go on. That's what you're insisting on. You're trying to make me say that we're somehow putting non-citizens above Americans. Stop it. That's the kind of journalism we don't need. I'm just asking, are you dividing people? No, you're not dividing people. Are you sowing discord? No, please don't. You don't need to ask that question. You're just trying to create a scandal. You won't get that from me. We want to preserve health care for all people. Thank you.
This
Was a dark-skinned and, well, a bit crazy representative from the state of California. In Congress, by the way, she played the fool for so long that it stuck with her. But there's one thing she knows for sure. Never confess, never admit, and scold those who ask the question. I wonder, does that mean she actually answered the question? Medical care should be provided to everyone. We feel sorry for everyone except those she steals from, though she still feels sorry for everyone else. So, a person crosses the border, gets treatment for an ulcer, teeth, prostatitis, and then goes back to their pension, back, and then another person comes after them. So, the Democrats, by stopping government funding, that's what we call a lockdown, so to speak, with different names, shutdown, lockdown. By stopping government funding, they gave Trump an opportunity. To divide federal workers, he can't control private employees, right? But those who are on the budget, the government employees, that is the opportunity to divide federal workers into two groups, essential and non-essential, necessary and not so necessary. And he got the absolute 100% legal right to fire those who aren't really needed.
The guy probably just wants to sit around and play role-playing games, play his silly video games. He's bored. Let's relieve him of his boredom. He committed a crime, a serious crime, and I think his plea deal should be, they'll tell you to take a month in jail and warn you not to go to trial against the feds. One Antifa member has already received a month in jail, I believe, for assaulting a reporter. I think it was the guy who attacked Cam Higbee.
1 million and make the government's work more efficient. And in my opinion, that's wonderful. Just great. The leader of the Democrats in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, wrote the following in response to the Republicans' claim that the money is going to illegal immigrants for treatment. This:
is a lie. That's a lie. What's a lie? Chuck has been calling one thing a lie for several days now. Democrats put illegal immigrants above American citizens. Chuck Schumer, of course, claims that's a lie. Not a single federal dollar goes to providing health insurance for illegal immigrants. Not a single cent. How could a United States senator like Chuck Schumer make such a statement? If there is any truth or reality to this statement, I would like you to write about it in the comments. But we all know that's not true, do we?
Interestingly, at this very moment, another leader of the Democratic Party is saying something that doesn't quite match what Chuck is saying. But when it comes to health care, they're just not being honest. The amount of money that actually goes to people without documents is such a small part.
A small part of the money would mean money going to illegal immigrants. Now, that's a Democrat. I think Chuck Schumer, maybe Rohanna doesn't know what's going on, and Chuck Schumer is right. But the amount of money that actually goes is so small. But
Here's my question. Which one is lying? And there's an unexpected answer. Both of them are lying. Both of them are lying. It's just that their lies didn't match, that's all. And what happens when you get caught lying? You pretend you didn't hear the question.
Every Republican who has appeared on television in the last 12 hours or so has called it the Schumer Shutdown. What do you think about that name? Senator Schumer, can you hear me? I can't hear. Senator Schumer, can you hear me? I think Senator Schumer can't hear me right now. Maybe the government shut down muted Capitol Hill's audio?
Mace, maybe it's best he can't hear right now. Another awkward moment for Chuck Schumer, his second this week. But when you can't tell a single truth, not a single federal dollar goes to providing health insurance for illegal immigrants, and you keep lying, blatantly lying to the American people, then it's probably better if your audio isn't working.
Belovnik, I heard, and then suddenly it stopped. My grandchildren love it when you talk to them, everything is fine, then you tell them it's time to go to bed, and suddenly they stop hearing you. Republicans also go on television accordingly. Here are the facts.
This is the reality.
We live in, here are the facts. The bill does not provide medical assistance for illegal immigrants.
Actually, yes, because it cancels the changes that the Republicans made to the Big Beautiful Bill. These provisions lowered insurance premiums by excluding illegal immigrants from Medicaid. Chuck Schumer's counterproposal on the continuing resolution would have canceled that. That's a simple fact. That would have meant immigrants. The Congressional Budget Office didn't say anything about illegal immigrants. You've already made your point.
See how? A calm explanation is interrupted, shouted over, and the topic is changed.
I've seen some Republican members of Congress say, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. If that's the case, my office is open for direct negotiation.
Wow, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez single-handedly shut down the government. And if you wanted to reopen, you can go to her office and negotiate with her directly.
Now that's a publicity stunt. No one says it's because of her, but she made it up. And she invites the President of the United States, the leaders of the Senate and Congress, to come to her office and start negotiations with her. So Mosca is strong, you say, yes. A strong, powerful, and very foolish Mosca. That's true. It immediately reminds me of a joke. A monkey is sitting on the bank of the Nile, let's say, the Nile River, yes, with a fishing rod. A crocodile passes by. Hey, monkey, what are you doing? She says, give me a ruble and I'll tell you. Suppose they use rubles on Egypt's Nile. The crocodile got curious and gave her a ruble. She says, I'm a monkey, I eat giraffes. What giraffes? The crocodile says, fool, you don't even know that giraffes don't live in the water. Maybe I'm a fool, says the monkey, but I earn 30 rubles every day. So, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Well, of course, I'm a fool, yes, but I make my 30 or more every day. And now, by the way, she announced that she's going to run for president. I wonder, what about the old hags? So how is the Democratic Party reacting to this?
The Republicans think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is behind this. And she said that senators can come directly to her office. She's the one leading this.
I'm just quoting what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said. She said to go straight to her office. Do you think there's any credibility to that?
She's great and genuine, but not in charge. Hakeem Jeffries is leading. That requires a lot of experience.
Oh, that hurts. Basically, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez lacks experience, a track record, and skills. The internal disagreements among the Democrats are becoming so obvious to the American public that it's just ridiculous.
Schumer just gave Donald Trump the keys to the castle. President Trump certainly thinks so.
Well, the Democrats want to shut this down. So when you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we're going to lay off a lot of people who will be very affected, and they're Democrats. They'll be Democrats. How do you shut it down? You know, we are this country. No country can afford to pay for health care for all the illegal immigrants who come into the country, and that's exactly what they're insisting on. I clearly have a duty to refuse this, as it will impact everyone. Shutdowns can be useful. We can eliminate many unnecessary things, especially those from Democrats.
There it is. That's the key at the end, Matt. When you hear about it, we can actually get rid of a lot of things. We have significant power during a government shutdown.
I like how Trump, he took up, the argument about the votes, but he says, here's what happens. You shut down the government and we eliminate many things. That's how it will be. And if that's the new norm, then great, because it wasn't the norm in the past. So it's great that Trump picked it up.
So the Democrats played their usual game, hoping that the press would shape public opinion that it's Trump's fault, that Trump and his team are to blame. Skillfully, let's say, they turned it into Chuck. Schumer wants to stop government work because we don't want to pay for health care for non-United States citizens. And it's stuck. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, but today this is Schumer's shutdown. Unemployment in the United States will skyrocket. After this million, well, I think they've already fired some people. The first time they fired 1,200, they're planning for 1 million. Yes, unemployment will skyrocket when this million ends up out of work, ends up unemployed. They will receive less than half of what they were paid for, just getting in the way of government agencies' work.
And let's take a deeper look at what Donald Trump is offering here, because we can see that the CNN headline we had earlier, they discussed how Democrats want to provide medical aid to illegal immigrants. And in reality, this would actually expand access to medical care for immigrants with legal status, not for illegal immigrants. So when we talk about this, guys, Democratic voters are the ones they always focus on. And if we look, we talked about Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Well, we can add Ilhan Omar because her district is in Minnesota and Minneapolis, and 50% of immigrants in St. Paul end up being involved in immigration fraud. So this is a sensational immigration and customs enforcement operation in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area. So we're looking at this, and there are more than 82,000 Somalis living in the Twin Cities. And as we go through this, the Democrats, they want illegal immigrants in the healthcare system and everything else. But we also talked about the census a little earlier, a few weeks ago, a few months ago on this program, and now it's all connected to this one issue.
Yes, so you have a system here that we know where the Democrats know that immigration is the #1 issue because for them it's a matter of survival. They're already giving these people benefits and will continue to do so. It's ridiculous that they are getting benefits. The idea is to make them dependent servants so they'll always vote for you. That's the deal they want, offering government services and benefits before counting them in the census. And, it's not much different from the dynamics that existed a long time ago when it came to slavery in the South. I mean, it's really like using vulnerable people to increase your political power. That's what they're doing, and everyone knows it now. This needs to be highlighted, and the budget struggle over these benefits is tied to this. For them, it's about survival.
I think it's absolutely clear that illegal immigrants, their entry, their resettlement, and the allocation of huge funds benefits the Democratic Party, but it's not beneficial for the people, for our people, for the citizens of the United States. So I want to finish with a brilliant interview by the writer, journalist, and public figure Melania Phillips. She became known worldwide for her book Londonistan about Muslims in England. Yes. In 2018, she released a bestseller called My Journey from Leftism to Common Sense. And before that, in 2001 and 2003, the books The American Social Revolution and The Rise of Phillips. She has just released a new nonfiction book called How Jews and Christians Built Our Civilization. Melania is phenomenal in some ways, just like the world-famous playwright David Mamet, who at the height of his career turned out to be an intellectually honest person. And he publicly broke with leftist ideas by writing the instantly famous book Secret Knowledge on the Dismantling of American Culture. And that wasn't easy, I think, because it meant losing friends, breaking off contacts, and stopping the production of his plays, including the legendary one that won the Pulitzer Prize, Glengarry Glen Ross, which I believe had thousands of performances on Broadway, and a movie was made based on that play. So he, just like Melania Phillips, left the left-wing movement, and all those who might have thought the same way turned away from him, but didn't have the strength to admit they were wrong. It's necessary. You need to be a courageous and intellectually honest person. So, an interview with Melania about why the left has united and supports terrorists. That always shocked me. By the way, it turned out to be so incredibly simple and accurate that there's just nothing to add to it.
The Western liberal mind considers itself good because it's liberal. The Western liberal tells himself, I'm a good person because I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal because I'm a good person. That means I believe in things like the brotherhood of people, conscience and compassion, caring for the unfortunate of the world, the poor and the miserable of the world, standing up to power abuse. That's all good things, and that's why I'm a liberal. And I'm a liberal because of all these good things. So one of the ways I express my kindness and my liberalism is by supporting Palestinian Arabs, whom I believe are being oppressed. And they are being oppressed by the Israelis who took their land and oppressed them. Now, in my opinion, every part of this is a lie. But let's set that aside. Here's the thing. What does a liberal progressive think? And the liberal progressive thinks that supporting the Palestinians makes him a good person. October 7th happened, and suddenly you have a situation where the people that liberal progressives supported as the oppressed, and everything they do is considered legitimate defense or resistance against oppression. Suddenly we see that these people have turned into the most bloodthirsty savages imaginable. Not just people who kill, but those who kill in a sadistic, barbaric, depraved, and vicious way that people can't even imagine. And they killed, raped, beheaded, tortured, and burned alive infants, children, women, elderly men, and others. And those whom they supported as the oppressed are considered good people because they are victims. These are savages. And those whom they portrayed as oppressors are actually the victims. They can't allow that because if they admit it, their worldview will be destroyed. Because people, the cause they supported as the embodiment of good turns out to be evil. It's with them. It makes them evil, so they can't allow it. What do? They go to incredible lengths to pretend that black is white, that justice is injustice, that oppression is resistance, and vice versa. That's why they have to portray the Israelis as guilty. The Israelis are to blame for what happened. So there's no better way to accuse people than to blame them for what they themselves have suffered from. Projection. That's why you accuse them of genocide. We also regularly hear that Israelis are accused of being Nazis. It's the same thing. It's not just an offensive thing, it's a very deliberate thing, because if Israelis are Nazis, then we're free. We, the liberal West, are free from any guilt or any association with bad things, because they're guilty. They're the ones who are bad. So we're free to continue our fantasies that we're good people. And I think that's also at the core of those astonishing scenes we've seen on social media, where people are tearing down posters of hostages with their own hands. You have to wonder what's going through that person's mind. These weren't posters advertising Israel. They weren't promoting the Israel Defense Forces. These were photos of babies, children, women who were kidnapped by bloodthirsty, greedy monsters, wild, depraved savages, and almost certainly subjected to unspeakable horrors. And yet they were being torn down, and the faces of the people tearing them down were often twisted with rage and hatred. And you have to ask yourself, what's going on in that person's mind? And
I felt like they literally had to claw it out of sight with their fingernails.
It was something that simply couldn't be tolerated at all. The very idea of Israeli infants and children as victims of the people they supported, because it contradicted the narrative on which they based their moral value. And it also seemed to me that they were tearing out the Jews, trying to completely uproot the Jewish people from their world, from their field of vision, from their world, from their minds, from their thoughts, and from their conscience. For me, that's exactly what it represented. And this whole inversion of genocide is part of that. It's not just disgusting, it's not just ridiculous, it's evil. It's a symptom of those evil ways that the West has fallen into through the adoption of a whole range of ideologies, a whole range of thinking that I think has come to define what we call the liberal progressive West.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, until our next meetings on this channel, and by the way, on the Roadmap to Freedom channel, goodbye.